Alright, what's up, man? It's your boy, y'all chosen one. We are in the great book of Joshua, chapter 8. Let's get it cracking, shall we? Alright. And Ayah said unto Joshua, Fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Take all the people war with thee, and rise, go up to Ai. See, I have given unto thee thy hand the king of Ai, and his people, and his city, and his land. And thou shalt do unto Ai and her king as thou didst unto Jericho and her king. Sorry. Only the spoil thereof and cattle thereof shall ye take for a prey unto yourselves. Lay thee an ambush for their city behind it. So Joshua arose and all the people of war to go up against Ai. And Joshua chose out of 30,000 men of valor and sent them away by night. And he commanded them, saying, Behold, ye shall lie in wait against the city, and even behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be ye all ready. And I and all that people that are with me will approach unto the city, and it shall come to pass when they come out against us, as at the first, that we will flee before these. So you see this in some movies that they make, back then. This is nothing new. For they will come out after us that till we have drawn from the city. For they will say, They flee before us as at the first, therefore we will flee before them. Then ye shall rise up from the ambush and seize upon the city, for Ayah your power will deliver it unto your hand. And it shall be, when you have taken the city, that ye shall set the city on fire, according to the commandment of Ayah shall you do. See, I have commanded you. Joshua therefore sent them forth, and they went to lie in ambush, and abode between Bethel and Ai on the west side of Ai. But Joshua lodged that night among the people. And Joshua rose up early in the morning, and numbered the people, and went up, he and the elders of Yasharallah, before the people of Ai. And all the people, even the people of war that were with him, went up and drew nigh, and came before the city, and pitched on the north side of Ai. Now there was a valley between them and Ai. And he took about 5,000 men, and set them to lie in ambush between Bethel and Ai on the west side of the city. And when they had set the people, even all those that host that went on the north of the city, and their liars in wait on the west side of the city, Joshua went that night into the midst of the valley. And it came to pass, when the king of Ai saw it, that they hasted and rose up early. And the men of the city went out against Joshua to battle, he and all his people, at a time appointed before the plain. But he was not, that there was liars in ambush against him behind the city. That's pretty cool. And Joshua and all Yasharallah made as if they were beaten before them, and fled by the way of the wilderness. And all the people that were in Ai were called together to pursue after them. And they pursued after Joshua, and were drawn away from the city. And there was not a man left in Ai or Bethel that went not out after Yasharallah. And they left the city open, and pursued after Yasharallah. And Ayah said unto Joshua, Stretch out the spear that is in thy hand toward Ai, for I will give it unto thy hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city. You can also read this in Jasher chapter 88, verse 42. And the ambush arose quickly out of their place. And they ran as soon as he had stretched out his hand, and they entered into the city, and took it, and hasted and set the city on fire. And when the men of Ai looked behind them, they saw, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended up to heaven. And they had no power to flee this way or that way. And the people that fled to the wilderness turned back upon the pursuers. See, now, after they had went into the city, now we're coming back, and pretty much these people, these soldiers of Ai, are now encircled. They're encompassed by the by Yasharallah. And when Joshua and all Yashar'Allah saw that the ambush had taken the city, and that the smoke of the city ascended, and they turned again and slew the men. They killed the men of Ai, and the other issued out of the city against them. So they were in the midst of Yashar'Allah, some on the side and some on that side, and they smote them, so that they let none of them remain or escape. And the king of Ai they took alive and brought him to Joshua. And it came to pass when Yashar'Allah had made an end of slaying all the inhabitants of Ai in the field in the wilderness wherein they chased them, and when they were all fallen on the edge of the sword until they were consumed, that all the Yashar'Alites returned into Ai and smote it with the edge of the sword. So they went back and killed some more. And so it was all so it was that all that fell that day, both of men and women, were 12,000, even all the men of Ai, for Joshua drew not his hand back wherewith he stretched out the spear, until he had utterly destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai. That's men and women. Only the cattle and the spoil of the city Yashar'Allah took for a prey unto themselves, according unto the word of Ayah, which he commanded Joshua. And you saw that back in verse 2. That was the commandment that the Most High gave him, was that the only thing that you should take is the cattle. All right? And Joshua burnt Ai and made it a heap forever, even a desolation unto this day. And the king of Ai he hanged on a tree until eventide. And as soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they take his carcass down from the tree, and cast it, entering of the gate of the city, and raised thereon a great heap of stones that remaineth unto this day. Then Joshua built an altar unto Ayah, the power of Yashar'Allah, in Mount Ebal, as Moshe the servant of Ayah commanded the children of Yashar'Allah, as it is written in the book of the law of Moshe, an altar of whole stones, over which no man have lifted up any iron. And they offered thereon burnt offerings unto Ayah, and sacrificed peace offerings. And he wrote there upon the stones a copy of the law of Moshe, which he wrote in the presence of the children of Yashar'Allah. And all Yashar'Allah, and their elders, and officers, and their judges, stood on the side of the ark, and on that side, before the priests, the Levites, which bear the ark of the covenant of Ayah, as well the stranger, as he that was born among them, half of them over against Mount Gerizim, and half of them over against Mount Ebal, as Moshe the servant of Ayah had commanded before, that they shall bless the people of Yashar'Allah. And afterward he read all the words of the law, the blessings and cursings, according to all that is written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moshe commanded which Joshua read not before all the congregation of Yashar'Allah, with the women and the little ones and the strangers that were conversant among them. So you see that? The women. So you can't say that women aren't allowed in the congregation, okay? Because Joshua read, and you can't say you're greater than Joshua or Moses. So he said the women, the little ones, the children, even the strangers were conversant among them. All right. Absolutely great chapter. I enjoyed that chapter, man. That was a pretty cool chapter, man. Going into I believe, yeah, and destroying this place, just as the Most High commanded, and not taking the spoil, not taking the women this time. This time they just took the cattle. All right, it's your boy, Yah's Chosen One. I get it at you on the next vid. Shalom.